Cheating left scars that run deeper than betrayal. Why am I not enough? Echoed across heartbreaks as friends revealed their raw pain. That's how we end, not even a single word. It's wild how their hurt became my own. What happens when love is given but never received? They have all gone through heart-wrenching breakups. And yes, the reason is the usual cheating. However, what affected me the most was not just the fact that they were hurt, it was how they expressed their hurt. Each of them had a moment, a raw, unfiltered second in which they said something that struck me deeply. Their words did not merely evoke sadness for them, they left a lasting impression on me. It felt as if I absorbed some of their pain without even being aware of it. What they experienced was emotional anguish, yet what I felt was physical discomfort. I did not even realize that was possible. There was an actual heaviness in my chest, a weight as though something had dropped directly into my heart. It felt as if their heartbreak reached into me and flicked a switch I did not know existed. My mind kept replaying their words even long after they had finished speaking. The echoes lingered in the silence and settled in my chest like an invisible bruise. It is remarkable how someone else's pain, when it is so raw and honest, can reside in your own body as if it were yours. It feels like you are carrying a grief you did not earn, yet you feel it all the same. Friend 1, the girl, year 2020. We were scheduled to go out that day. Nothing extravagant, just something to get her out of her apartment because she was feeling really down. She is quite dark-skinned, not too tall, intelligent, and rarely speaks ill of others. On one random, ordinary, hectic workday, she received an email. It was from a stranger, a man she did not know. It turned out to be the husband of the woman her boyfriend had been cheating with. He reached out not to fight or blame, but to connect the dots. Attached to the message were screenshots of her boyfriend and this man's wife entering and exiting a motel in another city. While she was brushing her hair, I was being my usual nagging self. I said, "Baby, let's go outside, get some fresh air. He'll know your worth. He isn't even reaching out to explain, apologize, or fix the relationship, so don't waste your time, don't talk to him. Ignore him, blah, blah, blah." She suddenly stopped, turned to face me, and smiled. But in her eyes, there was something there. You know that look when the light has completely vanished, then her tears fell like droplets from a vitamin dropper hole and steady. And she said, "So that's it, that's how we end after all those years, not even a single word." Reason, as usual, cheating. Friend 2, the gay friend, year 2021. He is part of the LGBTQ community, not a cross-dresser. Handsome, tall, light-skinned, and clever, his ex was similar minus the fair skin. The ex worked at a business process outsourcing company with a work-from-home setup, including a take-home laptop. However, even though the company was 2 to 3 hours away, he insisted on going there daily. He always had an excuse for being in the office, even when he did not need to be. My friend, who was unfamiliar with BPO culture, simply went along with it thinking it was normal. Too late, he realized that the ex was preparing to end their relationship and start a new one. At his lowest point, he said, I told him not to break up with me yet, just let my birthday pass first. But on my birthday I cried, I told JR how much I was hurting. I even said, even if I am just the side piece, just don't leave me. I was crying and he just said, go ahead, cry, while scrolling on his phone, as if I weren't even there. When he confided in me, he was not crying yet. He simply stared blankly while holding a glass of alcohol. No emotion, just emptiness. A few minutes later, he broke down. Reason, as usual, cheating. Friend 3, the guy friend, year 2015. Not tall, not super handsome, but definitely not unattractive. Financially stable, he already has a house ready for his future wife, making an effort when it comes to love. He and his girlfriend had dreams together. They had been lovers since high school. She aimed high too, but he was willing to sacrifice his dreams for hers. He believed that men can still pursue a career even when they are older, while women often struggle once they have children or start a family. Therefore, he prioritized her. He funded everything for her move abroad: bags, clothes, medications, makeup, tickets, visa, show money, and pocket money. Even when she had no job for months, he sent her remittances. He asked us if we had contacts there so she would feel safe and settled. Initially, they communicated all the time, day and night. Then it became just nights, then 3 times a week, then weekends, then nothing. He even grew worried that something terrible had happened, because he recalled a movie we watched about overseas Filipino workers and the hardships they face abroad. With what little money he had left, he flew there to find his girlfriend. The girl still had no job, however, she had a new live-in partner. We were all panicked. He called us saying he wanted to fly home that very day, but his return flight was 2 weeks away. All he could say was, "Why am I not enough?" Then he just sobbed. Reason, as usual, cheating. Friend 4, another girl, year 2025. They were together for the long term. She is a pure soul kind, family-oriented, hardworking, and not materialistic, petite, fair-skinned, and beautiful. They had been living together for about 5 years. Her partner had a child with his ex. Still, she set aside her own feelings to maintain the peace. She was incredibly understanding. Then her partner got promoted and began managing an entire department. Every weekend, he would go on rides with other bikers or attend team outings. But he never invited her, even though we saw in his social media stories that other coworkers brought their families or even children. She would be left at his place cleaning, doing laundry, feeding the dogs, and eating alone. One time, a family member of hers was hospitalized. Although admitted and discharged, he did not even visit or offer to drive her despite the difficulty of commuting. His excuse, he was tired and had no time. One day, there was a reunion with her friends, and they captured something on video, her partner being affectionate with another girl. That was when she discovered it was not just one girl. There were many, and he even called her boring. She called me in the middle of the night, asking me to pick her up near their condominium. She broke up with him. While she was at our house, I asked her what happened. She told the entire story, then she said, "It was okay if he treated me like a maid. Okay if he never took me out, okay with whatever food he provided, but to belittle me and cheat on me, that hurts the most." Reason as usual cheating. Friend 5, another gay friend, year 2024. This friend is also good-looking, talented, hardworking, and ambitious. He and his boyfriend were a great match. His boyfriend came with a lot of baggage, but who are we to judge? We all carry burdens. The boyfriend did not finish school and wanted to return. Even though my friend is not wealthy, he supported him, sent him an allowance, helped pay off debts, even though he himself is the primary breadwinner. Then the boyfriend broke up with him. He stated that he was not ready, did not want to hurt my friend, and had big dreams, fair enough. But it turned out that months before they broke up, he already had someone else, someone with a condominium, a job title, and a car. A classic social climber. And my gay friend remarked, "It is hard being poor. Love and respect depend on how much money you possess." Reason as usual cheating. My takeaways from 5 broken hearts. They are more than just stories of heartbreak. They serve as real, raw reminders of how deep love can be and how profoundly betrayal can wound. Across all 5 accounts, there is a clear pattern. Love was given wholeheartedly, but respect was not always reciprocated. Despite the differing backgrounds and dynamics, each pain felt familiar, like chapters from the same book of loss. Here is what I learned from all of them. 1. Cheating does not merely break trust, it shatters individuals. Each one of my friends was not just sad, they were devastated. It was not about ego or pride, it was about being discarded after giving their all. 2. Love is not always sufficient, but effort, loyalty, and respect are essential. These friends devoted everything: support, sacrifices, and second chances. However, love alone cannot sustain a relationship if the other person continually walks away, emotionally or physically. 3. Those who love selflessly are often the ones who experience the hardest heartbreak. To my friend who stated, "It was okay if he treated me like a maid," that was not weakness, that was love stretched too thin. Nevertheless, even the most patient heart has its limits, and when those limits are crossed, it breaks quietly before finally leaving. 4. Healing is messy, but silence, honesty, and safe spaces are vital. You do not try to fix their pain, you listen. Sometimes, simply being that kind of friend, the one who remains when everything is falling apart, is a form of quiet heroism. 5. Cheating does not just break hearts, it leaves echoes. Somehow, even though I was not part of those relationships, their pain left a mark on me. There is proof that heartbreak can resonate beyond the individual who is suffering. What are your takeaways? Story 2. I accidentally comforted a girl into a relationship after we met at karaoke. I can't let her down, I thought, as she shared her trauma, but now, a week in, I'm trapped. If you leave, I'll hurt myself. How do I escape this without breaking her? Edit to add a trigger warning for mental illness, possible violence, and mentions of suicidal ideation. Summary: I encountered a girl who is struggling with mental instability and convinced myself that I could take care of her, only to realize that I truly cannot manage the situation. I am uncertain about how to communicate to her that I can no longer continue in this manner. I would despise myself for eternity for breaking her heart, and I genuinely fear she might physically harm me if that occurs. I met a girl at a karaoke night organized by a local political youth group. We connected well, and I found her quite attractive. We spent the entire evening either talking or singing songs we both enjoyed. We both have alternative personalities and styles, which allowed us to easily connect on topics related to mental health and similar issues. That night, I accompanied her to the train station around midnight. The evening started at 6 p.m. and expressed my desire to see her again. The following Tuesday, after she finished work, she is an apprentice and I am a high school student, we met up and spent time at my place. I kept giving her compliments and attempting to flirt because I thought she was really cute. I had never been romantically or sexually involved with a woman before, so I was curious about the experience. We hung out for a while, listening to music and watching television, eventually heading to my room to watch a horror movie she enjoyed. She began to feel unhappy, so I comforted her and cuddled with her, and we ended up kissing. It was nice, but I felt uneasy because she was being very vulnerable and discussing deep trauma, despite only having known each other for 4 days. I thought perhaps this was just something that surfaced for her at that moment and that we could continue at a relaxed pace. Later that evening, while texting on her way home, she mentioned having butterflies in her stomach. I should clarify that I am neurodivergent and undiagnosed for most of my life, which has led to several issues in my upbringing. As a result, I have developed an unfortunate tendency to prioritize the happiness of those around me over my own comfort. So I reciprocated her feelings, and we met again on Thursday. While I am very much an introvert who enjoys my own space, she constantly expressed how much she missed me, and I was aware of her struggles with mental health and abandonment issues. Therefore, I agreed to meet up that Thursday. The night before, she sent me a message around midnight, while I was already asleep, expressing her hatred for her best friend and implying that she might harm herself, which compelled me to double my efforts to support her. On that day, she had an appointment with a women's counselor psychologist due to excessive drinking and concerning behavior observed at an event, not a party, where someone associated with the counseling center approached her and encouraged her to speak to someone about her situation. She asked me to accompany her, and I did, which led to me listening to her share every trauma and mental health issue she had ever experienced with the psychologist. At this point, we had only known each other for 6 days, and I began to realize that I might have taken on more than I could handle. Back at my place, we mostly remained in my room, just talking and cuddling, when she initiated further intimacy. I went along with it because I couldn't bear the thought of disappointing her. She experienced a severe flashback that lasted longer than she was allowed to remain, and then became upset because she felt thrown out right after our intimacy. The flashback itself was terrifying. I had to hold her arms down to prevent her from hitting herself, breathing with her for 10 minutes until she calmed down. After persuading her that I was not merely trying to take advantage of her, she finally left half an hour later due to the limited public transportation available at that time. Then came the weekend, when she urged me to let her stay overnight. Knowing she lived in an abusive environment, I wanted to offer her as much respite as possible, so I agreed again. I do not recall the exact day, but one situation has particularly stayed with me. We were relaxing in my bed, and while I was scrolling through Instagram, I came across a post that read "Tag someone who looks like this," featuring a picture of a pug. I do not like small dogs, and she is aware of this. I thought for a moment and said aloud, "Oh God, Teresa, a fictitious name, kind of looks like that." She then inquired about who Teresa was in an accusatory tone, leading me to show her a picture of a rally we attended together. She began questioning whether I thought she was pretty, to which I replied, "Not pretty, but cute, like a kitten or something." She knew I had never dated a woman or a feminine-aligned person. We were not in an exclusive relationship, and she understood that my autism caused me to be extremely blunt and honest. She scoffed at my response and turned away, moving to the other side of my bed. I remained silent while she sulked for various reasons. First, I felt a bit hurt that I couldn't express my thoughts without her reacting like a child who decided never to speak again. Second, I did not comprehend what was wrong with my response. Third, since she actively turned away, I assumed she wished to be left alone. So I gave her space for about 10 minutes until she scoffed again and asked, "Are you going to say anything?" At this point, I was still trying to process how we had even reached that situation. I take considerable time to understand complex social dynamics, again due to my autism, and I looked at her in silence, which led her to accuse me of rolling my eyes. I was merely looking at different parts of her in my room. I explained that just because I find someone cute does not automatically mean I find them physically attractive. Keep in mind, I have every right to consider someone attractive, at least in my opinion, but whatever. She responded in a way that made me think she did not fully grasp my intent. Thus, I spoke a bit more loudly and clearly, and she reprimanded me for raising my voice. She continued to scoff and sulk. Eventually, I opened my arms and invited her to come closer since it was past 1 a.m., and I truly had no desire to engage in an argument over her jealousy over someone I believe she does not solely possess. Note, I have not flirted, touched, or been romantically involved with anyone else since meeting her, which she knows. She cuddled up to me and we eventually went to sleep, during which I began to realize that I was in a troubling situation. There was a girl in my bed who has untreated, unmedicated PTSD, anger issues, and bipolar disorder, who cries to me at least once a day while reprimanding me for delivering compliments inappropriately. I told her she looked as lovely as Aphrodite, and she became upset because I allegedly attempted to curse her. Meanwhile, I am in my second to last year of school, amidst my first year of hormone therapy, grappling with my own mental health problems and life stresses, yet suddenly my top priority has become comforting someone else. But I could not stop. This continued. She would become upset over trivial matters, cry, and I felt obliged to comfort her, even as I longed to be alone and pursue my interests. She continually pleaded with me not to leave her, we are not a couple, expressing anxiety that I might find someone more appealing or discover another reason to abandon her. Consequently, I continued to reassure her, attempting to communicate my doubts gradually, but she dismissed them entirely. Today, we exchanged texts. I am beginning to worry that we are not very compatible. We are like a magnet, opposites attracting. I do not know what to do at this point. She told me she loves me, and I forced myself to reciprocate because I could not bear to see her unhappy. I feel like a complete fool. We are set to meet in 2 hours to go to a restaurant and then attend an event with the local political youth group, and I really do not want to see her. However, I have already committed to our plans, and I cannot simply cancel at the last minute. I consider myself a fool, not a bad person, at least by my own standards. Please, if you have any advice on how to let her down as gently as possible, share it with me. She has been sending me TikToks all day about, my perfect boyfriend is so cute and caring, while I feel like I am erasing my own needs to satisfy hers. I sense that neither of us is prepared for a relationship, yet she is pushing so hard that I am genuinely panicking. I do not want her to lash out at me or enter a psychotic episode. I have already forced myself to promise that I would never leave her. I am terrified. Story 3. I had a chilling encounter at a gas station that left me shaken. As I parked, a man backed up to block me, then turned off his lights and started acting erratically. My instincts screamed danger. I fled just in time. Did I avoid becoming a headline? I simply need a place to share this because I cannot stop thinking about it. Summary: I had a strange encounter with a man at a gas station, and I am almost certain he intended to do something to me. I immediately sensed that something was wrong, so I quickly left. I am fairly certain that I will hear something about him on the news. Let me preface this by stating that I, a 29-year-old male, am not a paranoid individual. I am vigilant, certainly, but I am not paranoid by any measure. I am always conscious of my surroundings, even when it appears that I am not paying attention. In my view, being aware of what is happening around you at any moment is best practice, especially at night. I will return to the reason I mentioned all that, but for now, here is the story. I work at 3:00 a.m. every day, which means that I leave my house no later than 2:00 a.m. because I enjoy taking my time on empty roads and spending the 20 or so minutes before check-in scrolling through TikTok. This morning, I departed about 10 minutes early because I needed to refuel. I lit a cigarette while driving, and as I pulled into the gas station, I decided to sit in the adjacent lot to finish my cigarette. This lot is directly linked to the gas station and serves as a drop-off area for the school nearby. However, unlike the gas station, it lacks lighting. It is important to note that the side of the lot where I parked was closest to the gas station, and the lights there are bright enough that the area where I parked is reasonably illuminated. As I pulled up and parked along a curb, I had about 3 puffs left on my cigarette. I decided to take this moment to check my email, and as I reached for my phone, a car pulled up, swung in front of me, and reversed until its back bumper was mere inches from my front bumper, essentially attempting to block me. This immediately struck me as abnormal, and there was no reason for it. In my area, we do not drive or park that way, especially when there is more than enough space to position ourselves far away from others. It is an unspoken rule here that if you do not need to be near someone, you do not get close to them. Additionally, parallel parking does not exist in this area, so that is not a justification either. I should mention that I have front and rear dash cameras and reviewed the footage multiple times to ensure that I was not imagining things and that I recounted the events accurately. I can confidently say that after viewing the footage as many times as I did, this man acted deliberately. I also shared the footage with my parents and uncle for their opinions, and they agreed without prompting. I did not inform them it was me until after they had watched it. This lot is vast, my lights were on, my window was down with my arm extended outside, and there was no one else nearby besides myself and this man. There was no reason for him to park in the lot with me, nor was there any reason for him to reverse his vehicle directly in front of mine when he had initially stopped 20 feet away. He could have remained in the spot he occupied, but instead he went out of his way to position himself close to me. The way he pulled in and reversed in front of me was fluid and intentional, and watching that video leaves little doubt in my mind about that. Once he parked, he turned off all of his lights, keep in mind that my lights were still on, and he began erratically reaching around, repeatedly switching his cabin lights on and off. At this point, my instincts screamed at me to leave, so I discarded my cigarette, reversed, and started to exit the parking lot. As I began to back away, he opened his door, flicked his cabin lights on and off one more time, and prepared to exit. However, as I passed him, he slammed the door, turned his lights back on, and started to follow me. This part may have been either foolish or what saved me, depending on your perspective, but instead of simply driving away, I pulled into the gas station. My gas tank is on the passenger side, so I circled around to face the building. Throughout this time, the man kept pace with me on the other side of the pumps, eventually pulling into a spot in front of the building. At this juncture, I was absolutely certain that something was amiss. Every fiber of my being was alerting me that this was not right, urging me not to exit my vehicle. Once I parked, my immediate impulse was to grab a weapon and wait. While doing so, I watched as this man craned his neck to look at me. He glanced back twice before exiting his vehicle. He opened the door while still gazing at me, stood there momentarily, slowly turned and closed his door while continuing to stare, locked the door and slowly walked inside. This gas station, by the way, features ceiling-to-floor windows that provide a clear view of the interior with only a small section blocked by the registers. I observed this man as I got out to pump my gas, and he moved back and forth from one end of the store to the other. By this point, there were other customers in the store, and the clerk is a robust, no-nonsense individual, although he is quite friendly once you get to know him. So I am fairly confident that if this man had intentions of causing harm, those plans were thwarted the moment he entered the store, if not when he first drove into the station. In light of this, I also believe that his plans were derailed due to how I reacted. Instead of engaging or directly acknowledging the situation, I went about my business, and I think this caught him off guard, leaving him uncertain about how to respond. It would have been one thing for me to leave while he followed, which I believe he intended to do, but to have me casually, at least to an outside observer, continue with my activities and appear to ignore him is, in these circumstances, disarming. In retrospect, I think this is what ultimately saved me. I should also mention that I had never seen this man before today. He was about my height but easily weighed 80 pounds less, if not more. Physically, I was not concerned, but I also did not know if he was armed, and although I was armed myself, I did not want to risk anything, both for myself and him, by confronting him. I knew he intended to do something and likely thought he could reach me before I realized what was happening, especially since I appeared distracted by being on my phone. The entire encounter lasted less than 2 minutes, with only 30 seconds passing from the moment he pulled in front of me to when I left the lot. That is just 30 seconds from when he placed his vehicle in front of mine to when he opened his door to exit as well. If he had planned to go inside the gas station, he could have done so directly from the lot, but instead, he chose to follow me immediately. This is how I am certain that this was intentional, and it is this aspect that, in its own way, frightens me. I have experienced perhaps a handful of instances in my life when my instincts warned me that something was wrong and that I needed to leave my location. However, this instance was different. It felt like a primal, visceral sense of impending doom that activated my body into overdrive the moment he pulled in front of me. It was a sudden feeling of dread that I cannot adequately articulate. I have never experienced such an intense response to a situation in my life, and there is no straightforward way to describe exactly how it felt in a way that would make sense. All I can say in that regard is that the instant he put that car in reverse, my adrenaline surged, and I felt in every fiber of my being that I needed to get out of there. It was so intense that I genuinely hope I never have to feel that way again. I might be overanalyzing the situation, and I may be making myself paranoid the more I contemplate it, but I cannot shake the feeling that the entire situation was profoundly wrong, nor can I dismiss the suspicion that this man intended to take action. What that action would have been, I do not know, and I hope to never find out. However, I also cannot dismiss the fear that this individual may target someone else and that I will eventually see him on the news. I sincerely hope that does not come to pass, but the feeling persists. That being said, if something were to happen, I possess 4K footage of his vehicle and the man himself to share with those who need it, including a perfect screenshot of his custom vanity license plate. It is safe to conclude that I will be more vigilant as a result of this experience. I can still feel in my core that this man intended to do something, and I suspect that feeling will not fade quickly. I will not allow myself to become paranoid, but I will pay closer attention. I would also like to add that even if I misread the situation and nothing was truly going to occur, I would rather be mistaken than ignore my instincts. They exist for a reason, and I prefer to heed them and avoid potential danger than to risk looking foolish if I am wrong. I simply hope to never encounter that man again and to never again experience the way I felt during those moments, as I can honestly say that it was the first time in my life I felt genuine fear for my safety. Stay safe out there, everyone, and always trust your instincts. Story 4. At 23, I lost my best friend to suicide, and his mom sobbed, "You were the last one he saw." He said I was his only friend that wasn't draining. I can still hear him laugh about being old at 25. I wish he found another way to stop the pain. Can I ever heal? I met him at work when I was 19 years old. He was 23. He and I worked together as a two-person crew installing air conditioning units in newly constructed houses. We collaborated for a little over a year until I was laid off. He retained the job because he had been there longer than I had. It was my first full-time job after graduating from trade school. I honestly cannot believe how well we got along. We both grew up on the internet, always online, referencing the silliest jokes constantly, and we played the same video games when we were younger. It was so enjoyable to share a laugh about the most trivial things in a company filled with older people. We also shared the same approach to friendship: no tolerance for drama. If either of us had an issue, we would simply inform the other, no hard feelings. However, we rarely had major conflicts with each other and never clashed. It was just minor matters. We were quick to apologize and to forgive. We would discuss personal matters while working in attics or crawl spaces. We could approach each other about relationship issues with our partners or family problems and ask, am I being unreasonable? Am I overreacting? Why is that other person angry with me? We would reassure each other that everything was fine, and we offered different perspectives, helping each other resolve conflicts and allowing each other to vent. For the most part, we listened to the same kind of music. Most guys at work preferred metal, rock, or country with little else. I recall the first time he plugged in his phone to the work truck and timidly played his music. I said, "Do not worry, I listen to a bit of everything, and I can assure you my music taste is worse than yours." Most of the songs he played were ones I already listened to. He made fun of me quite a bit and prohibited me from using the auxiliary cable when I played my music a few days later. It was all in good fun, and I cannot fault him. My playlist is indeed peculiar. Occasionally, I would ask to play a new song I had discovered and cue up the most unusual mashup. I often teased him for being old, joking that he was born in the 1900s. He was born in 1998 and I was born in 2002. It was all in jest. He would poke fun at me for being short, even though he was only an inch taller. During lunch breaks, we would get fast food and order together, each trying to pay for the other's meal. We would wrestle for the card reader or attempt to distract the other long enough to settle the bill. In winter, I would lend him my jacket because he would shiver when it was 60 degrees outside, while I generated warmth like a furnace. He would always tell me I did not have to go into the unpleasant crawl spaces, but I told him I would be right there with him to complete the job. I would not let him handle the difficult tasks alone. Another reason I valued our friendship was that I struggled to maintain contact with people, particularly if I do not see them daily at work, school, or elsewhere. Even after I was laid off, I could go months without talking to him, yet when I would send him a silly TikTok I discovered, we would chat and joke as if no time had passed. Alternatively, he would invite me to a 4th of July party spontaneously, and I would come over and stay too late with him and all of his friends, playing card games or Jackbox. Last November, I reached out to him because I was trying to determine what present to get for his fiancée for Christmas. A few days prior, he informed me that his fiancée had ended their relationship to be with one of her coworkers. They had been together since they were 15 in high school, and now they were 26. 11 years together. He was devastated. Particularly since they lived together and she had not moved out yet, he had to sleep in the same place as her when she returned home late at night, marked with hickeys. Additionally, she stated that she still wanted to be friends and remain in each other's lives. To complicate matters, he had been struggling with his mental health in the months leading up to this, reaching out to her for help and support. The same day he disclosed he was feeling suicidal, she told him that she could no longer handle him and broke up with him. Once he confided in me about this, I began spending as much time with him as possible multiple times a week. I allowed him to spend the night at my place so he could gain some distance from their shared room. I dedicated a lengthy amount of time to conversing with him, helping him navigate his emotions and simply allowing him to express his frustrations. He had many other friends and a supportive family, but they were all discussing his ex as if she were despicable and that he should forget her. I was the only one who told him it was acceptable to still love her, that feeling conflicted was normal, and that he was mourning her betrayal deeply because it felt as though the person he thought he was with had died. He expressed gratitude for this perspective several times, explaining that by allowing him to process his feelings instead of insisting he should hate her, it enabled him to gradually accept that winning her back was not what he wanted. He communicated how glad he was to have me as a friend, and I reciprocated those feelings. I assured him I would always be there if he needed assistance, no matter what. I expressed how much I enjoyed spending time with him, how effortless it was to be around him, and how fortunate I felt to be his friend. I appreciated how straightforward we could be with each other. He remarked that I was one of the few friends he had who was not draining to be around, as I did not judge him, and I never required him to be happy or energetic. Simply being in each other's company, scrolling on our phones together in the same room was enjoyable. I am not sure if I was his best friend, but he certainly was mine. He took his own life in December. His mother called me sobbing to deliver the news since she knew of our close relationship. She wanted to know if he had said anything to me. I was the last person to see him the night before. He visited me to hang out and play some board games. He left the games behind at my place instead of taking them with him. I looked forward to playing them again someday. I miss him deeply. It is now April and I still cry for him. He occupies my thoughts every day. He was really my only friend. I do not think I will ever find another friend like him. He meant so much to me. I do not blame him for taking his own life. Many people at his funeral were angry with him, but I was not. I understand what it feels like. He wanted the pain to end. Still, I miss him. I wish he had not seen suicide as the only option. I wish he had not been in pain. I am grateful I told him how much he meant to me before he died. I am thankful we spent that last month together. I appreciate that I was able to inform him that one of my favorite songs is one he introduced me to. I am thankful to have had him as a friend. I am now 23. He will never be older than 26. He was patient, kind, empathetic, funny, honest, wonderful, caring, and silly in the best way. He was smart, generous, and my best friend. I will never see him again. He is gone. I want my friend back. I miss my friend.